GearNetwork.com.
This is a Gear Network production. You a new podcaster need a show introduction or a commercial bumper? Or do you need a commercial for your business, brand, or podcast? Need help with producing your content? Let GRN Productions answer the call. For as little as $5, GRN can provide the services needed to make your podcast sound exceptional, regardless of what network you belong to. From voice work to checking and balancing your levels to eliminating dead air, we have you covered. Head on over to GearNetwork.com. That's GERE Network.com and click on the GRN Productions banner under the Support Our Friends box on the main page beneath the Amazon logo to take a look at some of the deals that we offer. Alternatively, you can email me at GearNetwork, GERE Network @gmail.com with what you need, and I'd be happy to reach out and discuss the plans that work best for you. Don't delay, stand out today with GRN Productions. You need quality, we need money. Let's be friends.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the TTRP Turnbuckle Talk Radio podcast. Of course, it's Pat G. The G stands for gangster. And I'm not joined with Cyclone Jones today, as Cyclone's taking a little bit of time off, but we needed ratings, and who else better to call than Mr. Everynight?
That's right, you calling me Mr. Ratings, Pat G, and the G stands for G Brony. Just came up with that on the spot, Daddy, yeah.
Mikey Everynight joining us here on the TTRP, and we're here on location at Grapplers Anonymous, the local training facility here in Buffalo, New York, training all the up-and-coming pro wrestlers here in the Buffalo, Western New York area.
Put in that hard work, Daddy. That's right, there's some guys upstairs. Pat G, give me a second here, bud.
No, you're good.
There are guys upstairs working out and training right now, putting in the hard work that's coming for your spot if you don't improve.
Well, you mentioned guys upstairs right now training with Brandon Thurston.
Yep.
Coming for your spot. Allude on that. What do you mean by, they're coming for your spot?
Well, there's only so many opportunities to be had on a professional wrestling card, Pat. And the guys out of Grapplers perform at a different level, even straight out of the gate. I don't want to sound braggadocious, my friend, but the reality is written in the pay window in those envelopes, Daddy. Who's getting those opportunities? The new guys who put in the hard work.
Of course. Well, you look at where Grapplers Anonymous started from. It started very low-key, very, on a need-to-know basis. And now you guys have built it to where this is where you want to be a pro wrestler, this is where you have to go.
Pat, I'm going to be completely honest because I'm a very honest man. The training that I received when I first started was very lax, to say a good word. Nobody knew how to give you advice to work out. Nobody gave you advice on how to diet. Nobody wanted your fundamentals to be crisp. They just wanted you to be able to perform to some sort of degree and sell a bunch of tickets. Selling tickets is fine, but when it all goes away and, Uncle John finally came and seen you and he doesn't have the interest anymore, if you can't wrestle, don't go nowhere. I found out the hard way.
You bring up your training, where it's very lax and everything. It seems today that the old guard and the old way of training styles are starting to either die out or get with the program. Do you think a lot of people in the Western New York area have started to realize that, and maybe they're starting to work together to get along to be better?
Well, yeah. Why wouldn't you want to be booked on shows and get opportunities that others are getting opportunities? But to that extent, that realistically goes into how you promote yourself, how you perform in the ring, how you conduct yourself as a business person. If you're not a, lack of a better phrase, a shithead in the locker room. There's a lot of different factors that going into having your spot challenged. Now, there's a lot of people that say that they use the hashtag get better or get out, which is fine. I completely agree with that. But the newer generation that's coming up long after me and the generation after them are far outperforming and out hustling and out working and getting better to a level that it's starting to push the hashtaggers, back just a little bit. And I'm not trying to throw any shade or anything. This is just cold, honest facts.
It's the honest truth.
Yes.
Because you have men like yourself. You have men like Brandon Thurston who have been wrestling for 5, 10, 15 years plus that realize that they're now at a time where the only way that this business is going to extend is if you give all the knowledge that you've received and maybe add on other knowledge that you've received throughout the years to the younger generation.
It's a world full of trial and errors, my friend. If I could write you a book on all the things that we did wrong just out of pure blindness and not knowing. But to that extent, it's not the fault of the generation after us for us to hold on to that information and not pass that on. It's a responsibility as a proprietor of a training facility. I like to use this analogy of the cycle of violence. They always say if your parents were beaten and then they beat you, it keeps the cycle going. Mm-hmm. Same thing with bad training. If your trainers were trained very poorly, like mind you, Bubba, I had to be retrained. Like it was that when this place opened up, I realized how poor my fundamentals really were. Mm-hmm. And wrestling wise, I needed to brush that up. So me personally spent months just learning from people with much, much, much more knowledge than me to retrain myself to learn how to train other people. And this was the first early months of Grapplers, like when it was still very, very low key.
It was on that low key need to know basis that very few people in the Western New York area, especially Buffalo, knew about it.
The key to that was to keep just shitheadery out. Like, because once again, if something opens up, everybody and their brother who feels that they're entitled to be a trainer or tell others what to do or participate. It was just a more of a defense mechanism, I would say, to defend this place from the possible negative publicity from those people starting to filter in. And we were very reserved and very sheltered for the first about 18 months about who really lets themselves into this little circle that we were building. And we've been very pragmatic about the training and stuff, because once again, we're going to make mistakes or have to revise things or go, okay, this old business model doesn't work anymore, because once again, it still is a business. But we're teaching you, well, you're learning how to learn. Mm-hmm. And that's essentially a huge point, is you have to really, really humble yourself to understand that, you're still learning how to learn. I'm still learning how to learn.
Yeah. Well, you even said it yourself. From the way you were trained, and then when you guys opened Grapplers, you had to essentially start over and retrain yourself. Yeah. Because you'd only had so much, and now all of a sudden you have guys that came in that knew more.
Much more.
And you realized, holy shit. My fundamentals are not as good as I thought they were.
I was at a severe learning deficit, is the way I would like to put it. Pepper Parks, Braxton Sutter came in a few times just to check the place out. Once again, it was an invite only thing. We invited him just to come check it out and observe. And he said, well, although what you guys are doing are fine, you need to extend the level of the training. You extend the intensity, the formula, and most importantly, getting it very structured. I'm not a very structured person in my, in anything anyways. I'm a free form kind of human in my brain. So I'm not the kind of person to sit down and write a curriculum or
bullet points, stuff like that.
Yeah. I just don't, I'm not very patient. But Brandon Thurston, who came and has helped out tremendously, he's very disciplined at that stuff, very, very good at being very regimented and things. So he brought that element of
organization.
Yeah, much more,
Okay, well, you say Brandon Thurston came in and gave you that element of organization. How is you and Brandon's relationship, you guys being the main two trainers here at GA, how is that Brandon's organizational meets your freeform? How does that work together and meshed?
We survive. I mean, we get along. The key to that is it's more of a mentality of good cop, bad cop. As where Brandon is very formulaic and regimented and duly determined to teach his form of wrestling, which is very, very technical.
It is.
And he's good at what he does. I will throw no shade at the man whatsoever at his ability to teach people. Now, myself, on the other hand, I'm a people person, Pat. You know that.
Yeah, of course.
You know, to be out of wrestling character for a moment here, you know, I really do enjoy interacting with every segment of society that pays their hard-earned entertainment dollar to come watch us do what we do. I'm very appreciative of that on every level. So I like to be a people person. I like to. The way I like to describe it is I like to be if you really want to be successful in professional wrestling and learn it, I want to be the one to introduce you to it. I want to be the one to help you dip your toe into the water. I've not to put myself over, but I feel like I'm a pretty good ambassador to the next generation. You know, because I want you to be comfortable in your learning experience. Everybody, once again, we do a trial at Grapplers, which is a whole bunch of calisthenics, and
yes,
it's cardiovascularly intensive, but it's to prove it to yourself that you want it more than we want you here. Because I want everybody to succeed. Everybody who passes a trial or takes a trial, you know, pays their hard-earned $40. Don't get me wrong, money's tight these days. You pay your hard-earned $40 to chase your dream. I want to make sure you want it just as bad as we want you to want it.
Of course.
So once again, when people pass the trial, you know, and then they're introduced on their first day, I try to make them feel comfortable. Try to make them feel like, okay, you're a part of something, but to be accepted into it, you're a part of it, but to be accepted into it, you have to work exponentially harder than you've ever thought. And we've conducted at trials. I just counted the papers again. I do about every 6 months. We've conducted 152 trials so far and only produced maybe a dozen wrestlers that actually have had matches out of this place that we can say that we've trained from scratch.
Oh, wow.
So that's less than 10% percentage, my friend. And to be completely honest, most of them, some people pass the trial and never come back.
Never come back.
Yeah.
Wow.
They never come back. And it's like you've earned this opportunity to be a part of something that because I make sure everybody really wants this is something they want in their life.
Of course.
Because you're going to put your financial stability on the line, your physical health on the line, your mental fucking health on the line. Sorry for swearing, Pat, but that's
you're good.
That's a bad element that most people don't. You know, they come in shape. You know, they come determined to learn. You know, they want to be good business people. You know, they want to put in but they're not prepared for the mental hassle it is to deal with the culture of professional wrestling.
Okay, you bring up the mental capacity to deal with the professional culture. Now, I want to bring up one man that's honestly I'm surprised at him, and he's great. Is Puff. Puff, like I met Puff a couple years ago through mutual work. We worked at the same place or whatever, and we kind of like talked wrestling and everything here and there. And he's like, I kind of want to become a wrestler, but I don't know where to go. And I'm like, well, there is a place, because this is when you guys were you guys had slowly got out of the need to know basis. We're kind of accepting people, so to speak.
It was never our intention at first to take students. It was just a place for the already trained wrestlers to come sharpen their skills.
Oh, yeah.
Because once again, myself, not being confident in the way I was trained, didn't feel confident enough to pass on the
whatever knowledge you had.
Yeah. I mean, I could help people get introduced and teach them basics and fundamentals, but once it got past that, you know, I didn't really have that capacity to teach them. But once we started to realize we got a formula and a pretty good system, and the guys that were coming here, the already trained wrestlers, were improving in the ring and getting bigger opportunities, then we figured, you know, it might be a little better
to open it up.
Yeah, financially, most importantly, to maybe accept a student or two, but have standards for it. Have an exercise standard. Because when I was first trained, I mean, granted, Pat, I was still not in fantastic physical condition, like muscularly wise, but when I first started, you know, it was anything you can do, I can do too.
Yeah.
But I realized at some point that you had to be in shape. I watched enough wrestling training things to know that you had to do free squats and push-ups. So I prepared for that for a few months before I started training. And we did that for maybe 10 minutes one day. One training session.
And that was it.
So I kind of figured even from day one that this is probably not what I expected, you know, like physically wise. But once again, it was never encouraged for anybody to go to the gym or work out together or go tanning or get good gear. It was like, oh, here's a block of tickets, sell as many as you possibly can. Go out there and get your ass kicked, bud. Have a good time. And granted, my only intention in wrestling ever was to get paid once and wrestle in front of my friends and my family, just to say I did it. And I accomplished both those goals in my first year. So all this stuff now that's going on in professional wrestling and being pragmatic,
it's icing on the cake, so to speak.
Oh man, we filled a bathtub full of icing, Daddy.
You guys have. Now, like I said, I get back to Puff. Now, when he came in, obviously because of the article that was focused on him and everything.
Oh, of course.
You were adamantly against him.
No, I was the only one for him.
You were the only one for him?
Only one.
Okay.
Only
Everybody
one.
else was against him.
Yes, people who had trained here.
What did you see in Puff that made you so adamant for him?
Everybody has something to offer. Everybody, absolutely everybody who comes to this door. It's about how they go about their process of offering it. Are they willing to work for it? Puff, when I first met Puff at one of the Riverwork shows that I was on, I was aware of him. I've known Puff since he was a small child. Like I knew his grandfather from a previous job that I worked at. His grandfather's actually the reason. This is a real shoot story. I would have never have gotten trained, thus realized that my training was poor and been on very terrible shows to inspire to open up this place. If it wasn't for Puff's grandfather, everything.
So
at least for
full
me,
circle.
Yeah, everything goes back to Jack.
Okay,
his grandfather, because he looked at me and goes, "Oh, you do this, you do that, man. When are you going to start doing? Your brother's doing it." And I go, he's like, he looked at me and goes, "Anything your brother do, you can do, right?" And I go, yeah. You know what? Anything he can do, I can do too.
That brother rivalry.
Yeah. And then, granted, I waited about a year to get trained after that, but he sparked the interest of like, yes, I'm going to do this. At least try.
Okay.
So it all came full circle. Then when I met Puff, he was extremely overweight but charismatic. He was funny. He made me laugh the first 5 minutes, which is just like that's humbling. Because I'm usually the one rambling, Pat, like I'm doing now.
Like when I met Puff at Target, because I was working at Target.
Okay.
He got hired as a seasonal during Christmas, and the first week, and you know how if you're in the business, you kind of can see people and whatnot. And the first week, charisma and everything. The first week, it was kind of a 50-50. It was. Okay, he's wearing the classic WWE shirts like every day or whatever. So I'm kind of like, all right, you're a wrestling fan, but are you like the Mark wrestling fan or just a wrestling fan because your grandfather was or whatever? Like most of us were. And then the other 50% was like talking to him. He was generally funny. He was entertaining. Like we got along. Like we bounced stuff off. Like kind of talking wrestling and everything. And that's the thing, like, when he came here, kind of full circle, you saw that charisma.
Well, I knew months ahead of time, because it took months for him to come here. The only intention for him to come to this place was that the Brandon was pursuing the Aponte brothers. Like, oh, man, they need somewhere to train. There's potential there. And granted, lots of potential. But Puff was the one who actually been forced. I think it was Ryan and Ray. I'm sorry, Bubba, I can't remember.
It's Ryan and Ray, I believe.
Yeah, but no, I know that's their names. But I don't know which one came with Puff at first, to be honest. But Puff dragged him here because Puff wanted to be a part of this. And once again, he was out of shape. There's no way he could pass a trial. But he paid his money and took a trial that day. Like he insisted that he was going to put 1,000% into it. Brandon was there and I was there, and Brandon's looking at me like, there's no way he's going to pass a trial. I thought, there's probably not a way he's going to pass a trial, but he wants to try.
Okay.
We're in the business of creating opportunities, you know what I'm saying?
Of course.
So he has to earn his opportunity. So Puff took a trial, and then he did not pass. Brandon thought he was going to die, gave me the death glare like Puff was going to die, and I go, hey, man, he's trying. I mean, he tried absolutely every rep of every card, every step, every stair climb. I mean, he did 20 times more than any of us expected he was going to do, but still not enough.
Still didn't get to that passing mark that you guys hold.
Yes. So we did not see the Aponte brother or Puff for, 3-4 months. And then Puff came back in a little better shape and tried to take a trial again. And the second time he took a trial, he did better, but still not to the passing level. Much better than he did the first time, which was very good. But he had the desire to learn. He wanted this bad. He had a personality second to none. I liked being around him. He just made me generally smile and happy,
Yeah.
good dude to be around. So I made a concession and a deal. We call it the Puff program. I do it for very few people who come through here and fail trials. Once again, generosity knows no bounds, because everybody has something to offer, but they got to want it. So Puff came and exercised for almost 4 months. Every day this place was open. Every day. I wouldn't let him in the ring. I'm like, Puff, just we're going to work out. And in those 3 months, he lost, I don't know, about 50, 60 pounds maybe. I wouldn't say, maybe not that much, but he lost a considerable amount of weight.
Yeah, he lost weight doing what you wanted him to do.
Of course. And he showed that he wanted it. He, was humble and compassionate, cared about what goes on, cared about learning. He would sit there and observe some days for an hour and a half, the guys in the ring getting the opportunity that he wanted. So he went out and seized the day. So fast forward a little bit, Ethan Page does a seminar here, and Puff paid his money to learn. And then at the end of the seminar, they made matches.
Okay.
And then Ethan Page was, paired Puff up with Kevin Blackwood, who was also trained here, phenomenal wrestler. So they got paired up together, and Brandon, because Puff had never been allowed in the ring here, goes, Puff's going to wrestle, and my opinion on the whole scenario is he paid his money to learn, right?
He came to the seminar,
yeah.
paid.
He deserves at least. I've seen him in the ring before. He did wrestle one time before. So he's earned his opportunity to at least try. And now, mind you, I was very frustrated over the situation. So I'm talking with my brother, who also helps me run this place, in the back. And I hear during the practice matches nothing but cheers and exuberation of jubilee. And, I'm like, something's going on out there. So Daniel Garcia, who also was trained here, which I know the story about that, Random Chance, is the name of that story. But he comes back and opens up the door with his hands firmly placed on his temples and goes,
mind blown type deal.
Oh my God, Puff and Blackwood had one of the best matches I ever saw. But I knew that I didn't know, but I had that feeling that was going to be the reaction to Puff every day, every time he stepped through the ropes. From that day when he decided that he did not pass the second trial, but he was going to spend every waking moment he possibly could here training to earn that opportunity to be in that moment. That was a culmination of everything. That was a culmination of all of those hard work, all of the, once again, mental anguish that people put themselves through. Am I ever going to be a wrestler? Am I ever going to get a chance to live my dream or have this opportunity? He took the ball, seized it, and ran. He's running with it now. It's
he's running with it full bore.
But the guys that come out of here, Nick Merrick, incredibly talented in my opinion. He's got to unlock that in himself. I can see it. He needs to unlock it.
Do you think? Now you mentioned Nick Merrick. Do you think the time he spent up at the Storm Academy helped him?
A little bit. I mean, he came back with a better business sense, with a better fundamental understanding that there is a whole process and a giant ladder to climb. It's not like we didn't explain this to him, but I think it's sunk in a little clearly for a guy like Merrick to have somebody with credibility like Lance Storm tell him honestly, like how rough this can be and how you can make a living with it. And I think that was the kind of guidance that he needed, that we couldn't have provided otherwise, to let it sink in with Merrick, because Merrick is who he is.
Yeah. Now you mentioned Daniel Garcia in the story with Random Chance, and along with Kevin Blackwood. Those two right there are probably two of the main known guys from GA.
Yeah,
because they came in day one and everything.
Not necessarily. Well, the first organized mass trial that we held, which had like 20 some attendees, when the standards were ridiculously high. They were unbelievably high at that point. And then you realize that you got to make some sort of concession somewhere for financial viability. But there was only 3 people that actually passed that mass organized trial, and that was Blackwood, Wes Adams, who I call affectionately Peanut.
Cyclone calls him Two-Face.
Yeah, because of the beard. Yeah, that's his face, man, too. That's like, he doesn't dye that. That's just natural.
That's him.
Yeah, like eating ice cream, daddy. And then a guy that we called Scoops, even though Juggalo guy, he passed too, which we never thought he would have passed. But there were only 3 that passed that mass trial, and all 3 of them started to get trained. Scoops disappeared somewhere,
lost in the shuffle.
Yeah. And the other 2 guys got booked pretty regularly. And once again, it's having working relationships with all these promoters. Like, once again, this place is not an exclusive ESW training facility or Nickel City or Southern Tier or MFW when it was running. It was never about that.
Well, you mentioned that at one point. Just because of things I overhear people talk, of course, because Western New York, wrestling, everybody knows. A lot of people thought Grapplers was kind of the ESW camp.
No. That was brought up to me one time, actually, by one of their insiders. Why don't you just make it the official school of ESW? And I go, no, because that's doing a disservice to the guys who don't wrestle there, who don't get opportunities there, which is, you know what I'm saying? If it's just, then how does that harm them if they get an opportunity somewhere else? It's never about that. This is anonymously, because we're anonymously together getting better. The community is uplifting itself.
Hence the name.
Yeah, we're independent contractors, Pat. It's a business, but nobody owns a town. Nobody owns a territory. Nobody owns a city. Nobody else. You go down, we live in a free market economy, daddy, capitalism. What they do is on every major intersection, there's 4 corners, right? Yep. And there's 4 different gas stations. Nobody owns a town like that. That you might feel that you want to be king of your little kingdom. When there's plenty of little kingdoms and little fucking fiefdoms and stuff. You have,
somebody, and this was brought up to me by a friend of mine, attends the local shows regularly because he's a wrestling fan. He asked me, he's like, does it seem to you that Western New York is kind of like territorial to an extent? And I said, no, it's not territorial because everybody works everybody works everywhere. Yeah. It's the way he brought it to me. He's like, well, I think ESW is like your north towns. Yeah. And then you have like Nickel City being the south towns, STW and MFW and around. I was like, yes, because that's the areas they run. That's the areas they're familiar with. Their home, they're familiar with. Most companies just find a venue, one venue that they stick as their home, and they just defend that kind of little area, the little kingdom. I'm going to be king of my little kingdom, and I'm going to defend it and have the people who back me and only put my product over. Well, and that does, you know who that harms? Promoters out there, you know who that harms? That harms the wrestlers, because now you're forced to make choices and decisions. When you alone, as an independent contractor, have to consider your financial viability, I mean, I got into this business to wrestle in front of my friends and my family, and what was the other thing? To make money, get paid something. But now when I realize that there's value in being a better trained wrestler, or somebody who can help organize or assume other roles or things and produce talent, you have a financial viability to that company, so you're worth more. Everybody has a value. Everybody has a worth. You, as a performer, and we teach people this, so promoters out there, you blame this on us. You have a value. You have the right to ask for money as a performer, right? And you, as the promoter or booker or whoever's in charge of that, have the right not to book them based on that financial statement, or you have a right. You both have the right to negotiate, but they have a right to ask you for $1 million, and you have the right to go tell them to go fuck themselves for asking for $1 million. It's the point in case. So no, but we teach people that they have worth, and there's a base value for that worth, and this is how to negotiate politely and respectfully, because you don't want to burn that bridge, because potentially down the line, that things open up. Like I said, I like to fund. They say that there's an old quote that. It is a financial thing, but
give me the supply, control of a country's money supply, and I do not care who makes the laws.
Yeah.
I apply it to pro wrestling. Let he who controls the new talent, I don't care who makes the booking, we make all the money.
That makes sense. Well, you mentioned Pepper Parks earlier. How at the start it was kind of an invite only.
Of course.
He came in, kind of gave his critique, his opinion.
Oh yeah, he came in for a few weeks, him and his wife, and they really he broke me back down to basics. Mm-hmm. Like, this is how I was trained. This is how Les Thatcher did things.
Yeah.
This would be a good way to do these drills. This is good because my cardio was extremely terrible when this place opened up. Like, there's very few people in local wrestling now that probably have better cardio than me. But there's a reason for that, because when this place first opened up and we started doing these drills, these Les Thatcher drills, these really professionally trained trainers, regimens,
yes.
NXT drills and stuff, I realized, this is ridiculous, like how bad the cardio is. You know, you think you have good cardio, but you really don't. 10 minutes is a very long time in a wrestling ring. So once again, I hammered the cardio into myself, because there's nothing I would ever ask anybody to do here that I wouldn't do myself. Mm-hmm. Because there's two kinds of people in the world, my friend. Well, I did two different quotes, and we'll get to that later. But there's a boss and then there's a leader. A boss stands above you with the whip and tells you what to do, and a leader's down there carrying the fucking rock with you, dragging. I use this analogy. We're gonna drag this cruise ship over this mountain to put in this isolated lake, but you best believe, Daddy, I'm going to be down there pulling that fucking cruise ship with you over the mountain.
That makes sense. Now, back to Pepper. Pepper comes in, and along with his wife, and kind of breaks you back down to basis, all this stuff. Now, at the point where you guys are, he comes in like once a week or
Wednesday.
Every Wednesday. And how does the way Pepper was trained relate to all the guys that come in?
It's more of an advanced class, like teaching psychology, teaching the timing, teaching you all the other aspects. I mean, we'll teach you the fundamentals and teach you how to run, bump, do moves, take moves, the psychology, basic psychology. We encourage you to get in shape, get gear, all these other things. But there's a level of networking and a level of performance that we otherwise couldn't provide without his expertise. He's been there. He's done these things. He's worked bigger shows. He knows how to network. He knows how to promote himself. He knows how to get you to. He knows how to give criticism in the most constructive, almost loving way. Like, you could tell when he's giving you advice and criticism, he cares about you, which is super important. He cares about how you present yourself in pro wrestling, which, once again, if we all cared about how everybody performed in pro wrestling, it would be a much better place, the whole as a whole. But once again, analogy we use here all the time is the cream floats and the shit sinks, and it's just the way it is.
Of course. Well, you guys have had numerous seminars.
Yeah.
Like you said, you mentioned Ethan Page. I know you guys had Chris Hero come in.
Yeah.
Is there anybody
Bill Collier. Is there anybody on the horizon, so to speak,
that you guys are looking at to maybe come in the near future?
No, not really. That all depends on timing more than anything else.
Of course.
Because once again, it's making sure the timing is okay. I mean, as long as Pepper's coming in and helping on Wednesdays, I think we're getting that level of professionalism that we need for right now.
Yeah.
Once again, a lot of these seminars, I mean, and things like that, are at least in the guys' opinion, not most indie guys, but names, it's a cash grab. I'm going to make some extra money to sit here and talk to you guys, which is fine. It's a learning tree and things. But to get the student to want to invest their money into that is harder than getting the performer to invest themselves into it. Okay. So you got to weigh your pros and your cons. It's more of a timing issue, Pat, than anything else.
Oh, of course. Now with Brandon Thurston, getting back to Brandon, because Brandon, you, like you said, you and Brandon play good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, most of the time.
how has Brandon's training that he's had has helped the success of everyone here?
He breaks them down to fundamentals. He gives them criticism. I mean, sometimes he's very blunt and to the point with people. It helps them most of the time. Some people get discouraged, but you have to look. You got to take the good with the bad, man. Mm-hmm. You know, you might have a fantastic drop kick, but your forearm looked terrible. You know, you were sure doing cartwheels when you were told the drop kick was good, but you got the boo boo face when. You got to be able to take the good with the bad, because once again, all we want people to do, the performers that come out of here, is just perform at a level that's higher than the level previous. I want people, the already established guys, to be afraid that their job is on the line, that they have to step up, they have to improve their training, because it improves wrestling as a whole. Mm-hmm. If you're going to be passed by a better trained, younger, in shape guy who has good gear and good fundamentals, is not a shithead in the locker room, is a pleasure to be around, is respectful, and they're going to make your money. And if they're getting over more than you, then they have a chance to make more money than you did. So what are you going to do? Are you going to sit back and let somebody take your opportunity for you? Or are you going to improve your business? Because we're all independent contractors at the end of the day. We're all our own businesses. Are you going to take your business into your hands and improve, or are you just going to sit back and let somebody else pass you right over? Once again, you and I both know, Pat, a lot of pro wrestling is who buddies you are with the person running the show.
Of course.
You know, I got to have my buddy on there.
It comes down to that a lot of times.
A lot. And I would say 50% of the rosters most of the time are like, I just like this guy to be around. Mm-hmm. But granted, I would be the same way if I was in that position. Why would I want to book somebody I don't want to be around? Or have them around? Or sure, they might be a great performer, or they might do things, but realistically, are they going to be a hassle to the locker room? Are they going to be on time? Are they going to help out at the end of the show? There's lots of different X factors that go into things like that. So I would rather have one guy or a few guys that would carry a ring through a snowstorm, because I know that's they care.
Which both of us have done.
Yeah. I would rather book guys like that maybe aren't the best performers in the ring, but generally are going to help out and be a pleasure to be around, to do whatever you ask them to do without any hesitation, than somebody who's super talented in the ring, but is hard to deal with. Mm-hmm. You know, granted, you might be losing out in your performance level, but overall success of the company won't be weighed down by somebody's bad attitude. So,
well, sliding back to the working relationships you guys have.
Yeah.
Like you said, at one point somebody came to you and was like, why don't you guys just be like, hey, this is the official training school of ESW? You're like, no, absolutely, for everybody.
Absolutely not.
How has the working relationship with ESW, Nickel City, STW, MFW when they ran helped GA and the overall picture?
Well, what it does is it help guys get opportunities that they necessarily might have to wait a very long time for. Mm-hmm. And two, it keeps us neutral. It keeps us out of I can't say keeps us out of the political BS that goes on around here, because that gets dragged everywhere, you know. But once again, I'm not in the business of working for one person or teaching these people to work for one person. No, they have to expand and make a living at this, Pat. You have to get out. You have to work other places. It's about the eyes on you. You have to get work, and you have to know your value and assert your value during your work. Mind you, the working relationships come with all about knowing how to talk to people, how to talk to bookers and promoters and say, hey, look, I got a guy that might be able to help you. He's going to come do ring crew. He's going to help out. You know, if there's anything available, please let me know. A lot of the guys who started here did referee work or camera, or just like how everybody does. So,
well,
that system has changed.
Example is look at Anthony Gaines. Yeah. Anthony Gaines stayed behind camera for 3 years at ESW and finally got a shot, and now look what he's doing.
The perfect example is Vinny Moon.
Yeah.
Vinny Moon has been an auxiliary. I've known Vinny Moon since he was 14, 15 years old, maybe. He's always been like an auxiliary guy, like the cameraman, the guy, you know, a security guard, something or other, you know. And he was patiently waiting for an opportunity that probably wasn't on the horizon for him. So he put in the hard work. Vinny's a guy who failed 2 trials before he passed one. Mm-hmm. But now he's putting in an exponential amount of hard work and is becoming I would consider a very good hand in the ring. But here's a guy, if we were exclusive to say ESW, he's probably still he still hasn't wrestled there. So he's still on the shelf, as of today.
He's still kind of on, like,
getting an opportunity.
They know of him.
Yeah. Well, he's been there for years. Of course they know him. He's been there 5 years, helping out. But that's besides the point. But when he got his opportunity, at IWF to start, and then Nickel City gave him an opportunity, he took the ball and ran with it. But here's somebody who would still be paying to train, twiddling his thumbs right now. If he didn't get out underneath it and get work. And to say, and once again, it's all that wrestling drama, criticism stuff. To say one person's kingdom is better than somebody else's kingdom, if you don't work there, you don't know.
Well, you bring that up, and I'm going to mention it because we've talked about all the companies in Western Europe many times on the show before, whether we've been on the radio or that.
I'm being very political today, Pat.
I see that. Cyclone Jones has said that ESW is essentially, as far as Western Europe's, like, that's where you want to be because that's the
you're going to get exposure.
That's the core. His thing is ESW is kind of like the WWE of here.
I don't use analogies like that, but I get it. I get what you're saying.
But that's his analogy, so to speak. I view ESW is a very good company. Yeah. They know what they're doing and everything. They obviously pack the house every show in, show out.
They have a formula that works.
Yeah. What the thing is you guys here promote get yourselves out there.
Yeah.
Don't focus on one thing.
Yeah, don't pigeonhole yourself because then you're going to be you never know how long you're going to be waiting with your hand in your pocket. And don't grip anybody's pockets, by the way. No grippery today, or ever. But yeah, you're an independent contractor, and whatever we can do and form good working relationships with every promotion. Nick Merrick got his start as a referee in MFW. Daniel Garcia got his start as a referee at MFW. You know what I'm saying? Well, he actually wrestled me, then he was a referee, but that's a different circumstance. Like he had to. I needed somebody, and he was super. Back to Daniel. Let's do the Daniel Garcia thing right now.
Yeah.
Before I forget, Pat, I wrote down my notes. I didn't write anything down. This young man approaches me at a wrestling show with his mom, and please, we would like to train. We hear you like to train, but so I ask him, "How old are you?" He says, 17. Oh, sorry, can't train you till you're 18. Mm-hmm. So a few months later, I find out that he lives down the street from me, not down the street, but down South with a few blocks of where I live in South Buffalo. So, already endeared him to me, South Buffalo.
Of course.
So his mom was like, "Please, can we check the place out?" And of course, there's no harm in giving the information that's available. But I'm very adamant I won't train anybody under 18 years old, and you probably should go to college. I'm very up in the air if you don't go to college and train you. You need some sort of backup.
Okay, so if somebody comes to you, they're 18 years old, they're like, I want to be a pro wrestler, but they're not going to college, you're kind of
they better do something with their life. They better be learning.
You got to have something to fall back on.
Please, because this is less than 1% of 1% of 1% of people actually make a living to pay all their bills.
Everybody cannot be Xavier Woods.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So his mom comes in, and I show him, and they're very nice, pleasant people. His mom's like, I'll pay whatever. I'll sign whatever.
Yeah.
And no, it's just a matter of honesty and integrity,
Of course.
So I lost track of him. It had been 6-8 months. His mom was in my phone as his kid's mom. I couldn't remember his name. He was the kid to me. Yeah. Because he was a kid. So I lost track of him. I didn't know when he turned 18. So I'm walking home one day from the gym. It's like a rainy evening. And I'm Pat, I can't see at night. I'm virtually blind. So I hear somebody yell my name, and it's a drizzle rain, and I turn around, and so this person obviously knows me who's 50 yards behind me at the intersection. So I walk up to the car and squint, and I vaguely recognize, I'm like, who are you again? And he knew my name. He goes, oh man, I would like to train, blah, blah, blah. And I go, oh, the kid. Are you 18 yet? First question. Are you 18 yet? He goes, yeah, I turned 18 3 weeks ago. I'm like, come take a trial. Complete random chance.
Yep.
Like, it was just, who would have known if he didn't see me walking home that day, or if I had to take a dump upstairs here and was later or whatever. Who would have known? Because when he first started training, he was still on the fence about playing. He was a hockey player, about playing college hockey. And I'm like, Bubba, you have to devote yourself, obviously, because you're going to school. Yeah, you're going to have to do one or the other. And I'm more than happy that he chose wrestling, because he has a career trajectory unlike anybody I've ever saw. But he came here with a level of dedication that nobody, outside of Puff, that I never saw. Just a determination to really want this, whatever this is.
Speaking of Daniel Garcia, we recently talked to Tyson Dukes. And Tyson Dukes put Grapplers Anonymous over, and he put Daniel Garcia over. He's like, that kid has a world of potential in him, and he's got a bright future ahead of him. If he's doing the right thing and everything, he's gonna get seen somewhere, somehow.
Yeah, that's why I like to explain to these guys, you've got to take your opportunities, you've got to be very diplomatic in what you do and how you do it. Only for the simple fact of you have to preserve yourself for your bigger opportunities. So if you go into a locker room, smaller locker room, smaller company, and you're a shithead, that word travels, man. Mm-hmm. Even if you think you're in this isolated corner of the world over here with a draw of 50 people, if you're a shithead, man, there's an old saying, you're old enough to know, Pat. That in the wrestling business, information gets by telephone, telegram, or telewrestler.
Yeah.
So, and that's true. People still, and once again, this goes back to why we work with everybody. A lot of these guys, it's still the business is getting booked by word of mouth. Hey, I got a guy. I never would have expected ever guys training out of here for people that I've always respected. Who I didn't even know thought I existed, or that message you and go, hey, I need a guy. Do you have somebody?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course I do.
I have a few guys.
And I call this the Jiffy Pop analogy, and I use this with everybody all the time. And we're going to segue into because I want to get some of the other guys down here.
Of course.
And I don't want to be hogging. We're already at 46 minutes, but we got forever.
Yeah, we have plenty of time.
But my point is there's only so many spots on shows and so many gift spots to my friends and the guys I like to be loyal to and shit who have been loyal to whoever that is, whatever promoter, booker. But this place is producing competent, good wrestlers at a rate unlike anybody has ever seen in this area, right? And once again, the proof is in the hard work and in the booking sheets. And in the envelopes at the end of the night.
Plain and simple is, you look at where Western New York wrestling was, say,
6 years ago,
to where it is now. And
unbelievable. It's a boom period.
A turnaround.
A boom period.
Yeah.
And once again, I would like to attribute a lot of it to guys buckling down. Not just putting this place over, but the whole area in itself buckling down and realizing what shit is and what shit isn't. But this place is desperately helping what was once a fractured area with hot dogs and handshakes and orange juice payments, to now it's, this guy's a good performer. He has good notoriety. I like his stuff, his routine. He's trained well. I would like him on the show. But once again, we train our guys to go, hey, I can come in and do whatever you need me to do, but this is the financial obligation you are obligated to make this happen. And once again, they have the right to go, oh man, go screw yourself, and you got the right to go tell that guy, well, no, I'm not going to come in for this is too low. I value myself a little more. So it's a give and take game. And once again, I always encourage these guys to set a standard for themselves. But be willing to negotiate because once again, what's good for the goose might not be good for the gander. Always take your gas money into account. Like, please.
Oh, of course.
But to overall, like, say it, you've seen the Jiffy Pop, right? Like the stovetop stuff, not stuff you put in the microwave.
The frying pan.
The frying pan, right? It goes from like where when you put it under the heat, like and it starts to rise, it goes from rising to being done in a few seconds to burning within seconds after that.
Of course.
Well, right now it's starting to rise, right? With just so many good wrestlers coming out of here and guys training here and improving. It's to the point where now it's starting to bubble, and then soon, if something doesn't happen, it's going to burn.
Yeah.
And then it's only going to be bad for the companies involved, so to say, because then they're going to have a conflict of amongst themselves to go, do I adapt with the times and these old alliances have to go, and I have to book these people who are good at promoting themselves, selling tickets, good in the ring, good perform, not shitheads outside of the ring, or do I get steamrolled if something else were theoretically to appear? So for all you bookers and promoters out there, take that into consideration, my friends, because once again, 3 points. Before I let Pat G go. Point number 1. Get your pay windows up. Point number 2. As the promoter, it's your responsibility and obligation, because it's in your name, to promote the show. Point number 3. Make sure you understand that your talent level is based on your intellectual capacity, for lack of a better phrase, to understand what good wrestling is and how that pertains to your audience in your little kingdom. And most importantly, number 4, that's right, I want you to all take a good listen, because every night's on your microphone. I'm here with Pat G. We on the Turnbuckle Talk. This is going to be the highest rated show ever. All them other training facilities and other trainings don't matter. The guys out of Grapplers are making big things happen on our own. It's nobody's school but the community school. That's why it's anonymous. You ask yourself why, if it's anonymous, to not take pride in what you do. We do take pride in what we do. Look at the shows. Look who's on the show that comes out of here. I dare you to take your pay window to a Grappler's Guide pay window and play Big Bank, Little Bank. Because I guarantee 100% of the time that a Grappler's guy over your trained guy is going to be making that sweet green, that phone don't jingle daddy, yeah. That's right, Pat. Now, let's go get one of these jabrones down here to talk to you.
Yeah, we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back with a member of the GA training right here on the TTRP.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.